Okay, Tuesday, November 15th. This is an end of the day SPY recap. You can see here on the daily chart, we end up with a bit of a red day from the open, but in reality, it's just a broadening day and a consolidation day overall in terms of what's still unfolding in the bigger picture. You can see here after this big gap up last week, we kind of follow through a little bit on the next day, and then for 3 days now we've essentially been going sideways. That's all this is at the moment, and it's really again kind of predictable that this could happen in terms of this still some gaps down here to potentially fill. You had some exhaustion risk. On the weekly chart, you could see so far 2 days into the week, we're still green on the week from the open. I'll get to that level in a second. Still looking to continue a little higher, but after a big green bar taking out that high, we're kind of just consolidating. So again, we want to see price hold the midpoint of this week. Even if we pull back a little bit, we still have an opportunity to kind of hold in here and then continue higher eventually, or we might do it tomorrow now that we have a few days of consolidation. But in terms of today's price action from the start, we had that PPI number, which led to kind of a positive result pre-market, and then price sort of settled in at the open near the highs, but never really moved above the first bar at all. So there was no real buy signals here. This first little second bar, if you want to call it a red to green move and try to buy it, looking to take out that first bar high, you would have kind of watched it maybe fail, start up again, fail. So it's kind of almost a break-even type thing here. If you were still thinking red to green and saw this come down just to take out that first bar low and maybe anticipated that this would be an opportunity to move to new highs, that's fine. But you had 1 hour essentially where price just couldn't move up, and then again more of a break-even trade here from the entry point. And at this point, you know there was no real, even though the bias was to the upside, you sensed that you weren't getting what you needed either in the first move of the day, or even maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 8 bars in. If this was going to be the low of the day, it really should have exploded up from there. And at that point, it's just time's going by near the open in terms of where the high or low of the day is going to be, and this looked more likely that this might be the high of the day. And what happened was you ended up with a move that once it kind of broke these lows, and you could have actually anticipated this a little bit, that it was developing coming down here. That creates a move beyond the halfway point of the prior day, which then takes you to the lows of the prior day, and that's all it did. And that you can see that's where the close was. That's the yellow bar, so yellow line. So when we're above the yellow line, we're still thinking long a little bit. And anyway, it took out those stops and then just kind of rallied a little bit to close, sort of relatively unchanged on the day within the 3-day consolidation range. So again, I'm not going to say it was an easy day to trade, but you certainly didn't have much of an up bias going on with the SPY, and you were alerted to the fact that you could have had a short-term scalp trade to the downside to take out the lows yesterday once you crossed the halfway point of yesterday here. That's kind of what happens. But then, as usual with broadening action, that's not really an actionable signal for tomorrow. We don't know if we're going to get continuation down, or if that's just, I had discussed in the weekend video how, on this up move, look for opportunities to get long. It could either be pullbacks that have 2 up days, or you could get any kind of broadening down kind of situations where that could be the trigger to sort of get long. But in this case, you can just see why you didn't get much follow through, given the fact we still have an uptrend in place, but we're still kind of consolidating. So I'm just going to call it that for now. Again, this purple line is the monthly chart staying green. So as long as we stay above there, that's fine. This blue line here, which happened to be the low of the pre-market range, is also the open of the week. So as long as we kind of stay above these 2 lines tomorrow, maybe start here and start up, it's green. If we head down a little bit, all right, you can take a 2 down. At that point, if we really get a 2 down day, maybe we're going to start to target this gap a little bit more in the short run. And the weekly chart is going to fail a little bit, early in the week, maybe move to the halfway point. We'll see if any momentum picks up to really negate this. But at this point, I don't see that, given the monthly chart, which is over here, is still nice 2 up, targeting these areas before the month ends. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. But again, today, opening price action just never followed through past the first bar ever. So that's why it was hard to, there were a few stocks, or a bunch of stocks that actually had some good up biased long trades, but in general for the market as a whole, there was also some failure I bought some Tesla puts, for example, in this area, and that worked out well. But for now, it's just broadening action, within an overall, you can see that, look at that range here, broadened here. Now we made the lower low, so we can definitely be continuing higher here. In line with the bigger picture, and if not, then we might just come down and fill some gap areas in here, but you can play that to the short side. But again, the bigger picture is still up until we really take out this week, until some kind of weekly reversal takes place, and we're nowhere near that yet until you cross the halfway point of the prior week for this week. And then we'll see next week if we just have a small little bar here, maybe we can get a 2 down week next week, which will target these lows, but that's yet to be seen. We still have 3 days to go, so let's see what happens tomorrow. But today, just a consolidation day, 3 days of consolidation, very not unexpected given this big move up and just a little bit of a pause before possibly heading like as I've been discussing, to these higher targets eventually.